We were paid to do this piece of work. We didn't volunteer for it. That's a bad start, I know. But it was quite a difficult piece because we needed to reach a huge number of people, really. So we needed to support those people to complete surveys and questionnaires and interviews, and so that their voice could be heard clearly. It isn't just a matter, for example, of sending out a survey to everybody on an email circulation, and just expecting that to come back to you. There was an enormous amount of hard work of sitting down with people, because if I can explain, our membership, which was about 250 people at that time, which is a tiny fraction of the 6,000 maybe people with learning disability and autism in Neath, Talbot and Swansea areas, they were the core of the work that we were doing. So they were not only contributing their opinions about what mattered to them and in their lives, they also had their own networks. So you can imagine this rippling out to a much wider group of individuals. So this is one of the key lessons, I think, is that people have to be supported to contribute, supported to volunteer, supported to make a contribution. And during the course of the survey, we had 270 odd responses. We were able then to gather thousands of comments and contributions from people with a huge range of life experiences, people in supported living, people living independently, people with complex needs, and condense those into something that was comprehensible, that everyone could understand, and that clearly highlighted certain priorities for that community. So a desperately important way of gathering that information. And instead of starting, one of the approaches was, instead of starting with a blank sheet, we gave people 9 areas that had already been well identified as being important to the learning disability community. Things like health, things that we're all familiar with, like community, like being valued, like how they're treated in their own communities and so on. And we asked them to corroborate, in other words, to agree with whether or not these statements were correct or not. Because that at least allowed them to focus on those very important areas. And even though we did that, we still missed out on certain things. So there, it was necessary to engage and in person. If you remember, 2022, we were still coming out of the COVID crisis. People were still reluctant in some instances to participate in face-to-face meetings. So we had to again find different ways of reaching those people. And although I think we were successful, I think we contacted around 400 different organizations and individuals. And I think we got a representative view of what people wanted from the strategy. We still failed to reach many of those groups that are hard to reach. And I still think there's much more to be done in reaching, as I say, that 6,000 people, the silent majority, those people who are living in the communities that nobody knows anything about. They're not on any registers, they're not known to social services and so on. And I think that's work for us to do in the future. So there's my message. Yes, we must involve people. Engagement is a form of volunteering. People give up their time in order to talk about their lives and very personal things that are important to them. We have to acknowledge that. But also you need a team of people who are going to support them to do that.